That's the way from Rita Marley's album Who Feels It Knows It, which is Rita's very first solo effort after quite a lot of years of singing with I3s. How come you've suddenly branched out as a solo artist, Rita?
Well, Phil, it has been a long, long time since, I've desired to do sing on my own as a solo singer. But then having to work with Bob in the I3s and working in the shop, the record shop, which we had about 14 years ago.
Did you?
Yes.
Oh.
And being a mother of 5, there was other things happening which, you didn't find the time to say, well, take up the responsibility of a solo career.
So it's taken 14 years, eh?
Yeah, actually.
Well, glad it happened in the end. How did you first come to be connected?
Well, I was living in the same area, the same ghetto area in Trenchtown as Bob and the Wailers, and I was doing practical nursing at the time. And they would pass on the road that I was living to go to the studio at Coxson's every day. And I was one of their fans. During that period, they had It's Like a Simmer Down, Lonesome Feeling, I'm Still Waiting, Put It On, and all of those songs. So I was one of their main fans in Jamaica. And I would stop them, and say, well, hey, I can sing, give me a chance, try me out or something, So they decided to take me in for an audition one day at Coxson's studio. And it was good. And Coxsson decided to put me with a group called the Soulettes. And I was made a lead singer for the group then. And we made quite a few recordings. Our first recording was I Love You Baby. Then we had Opportunity. Then I did Pied Piper. And quite a few cuts and stage shows on the Coxsson label.
So you were quite well known, in fact, before you came into the Wailers themselves.
Yes, I had my own group at the time. And I was doing pretty well. The Soulettes was actually the #1 group in Jamaica, female group in Jamaica. And there was a sort of combination then with the Wailers as being #1 male group and the Soulettes being top female group. So we had much in common.
I guess so. So how did you eventually come together?
Bob was given the responsibility to sort of coach the Soulettes, writing the lyrics and picking venues for performances and all of that. So he was sort of the boss for us then, And he was like a father to me on a protective point of view, like seeing to it that I wasn't attacked by any of the males around and, keeping the producers away and all of that, which was a great help for me, which made me enter into the business in a respectful manner,
Yes. What was Bob's attitude towards your starting your solo career? After all these years when you had been the backing singer, did he encourage it?
Yes, he encouraged it because that's the way he knew me as an individual person who wants to have a career. But he respects me in a sense of sort of sidestepping my own career as an individual and working with him as a partner. So he appreciates what I'm doing, and he's a co-producer on the album, actually. And he's in for everything that I'm doing.
Yeah, yes.
Even the kids worked right in because right now they have a group called the Melody Makers, and they have 2 records, which is doing great in Jamaica. Trotting and children playing in the streets.
Jamaica's just had an election, and Malcolm Manley was voted out, and Mr. Siaga was voted in. Yeah. Did you and Bob play any part in the election? I know you have participated in politics over there to some degree in the past.
No, Phil, we haven't really participated. It's just the opinion of people, because I know we're non-political, we're Rastas, and Rasta don't have no view of politics. We're just free people living for the people and speaking through music for the people, They have been using Bob's song, really, both sides. Bob has a song called Bad Card, and they have been using it to campaign both parties, without Bob consenting. And it's just natural.
So that's how the name gets attached. It's not by Bob's
No,
wish.
no, really, it's just they do what they feel like.
Yes. I was interested in that in relation to one of the songs on your album, Good Morning Jar, which was the only one that seemed to have the sort of political reference which Bob often puts on his records. The drift of the song seemed to be perhaps against people fighting, that they should, in the piece of Jar, that people shouldn't fight against poverty. Is that right, or am I misinterpreting it?
Poverty, it all depends on what you're seeking. If it's poverty of material gains or poverty of the mind, which you can be separated from things that could uplift your mind to take you out of that crime state of mind of thinking that, well, nothing is going right with me, I'm poor, and, there's different stages of poverty that exist in Jamaica. People have money and they're still poor.
Poor in their heads.
Yes, So that's one of the main things, poverty of the mind, which we really preach against, because the system can really mash your mind.
Good Morning Jar from Rita Marley's album Who Feels It Knows It. Rita, Haile Selassie came to Jamaica in 1966, and I read that that's when you and Bob both became Rastas. Is that right?
It's not really becoming a Rasta. It's then identifying yourself as a true African with the dynasty of Africa, When His Majesty came to Jamaica, I went to see him. Bob, at the moment, he was in Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, with his mother. We had just gotten married, and he decided to migrate to Delaware to try something, because at that time the music, we wasn't paying off very well. And we decided to start a life as two young people, so he left, and I was still there trying to find a way out. And I went to meet His Majesty, and I said, well, the only thing that could convince me that this man is God is if I see the nail print in his hand, which is is the last thing you could ask for to see.
Yes.
And that day it was raining, actually, and it was a strange day in Jamaica, very strange. And just as he was passing, I said in my mind, well, I have to see, because nobody could convince me that this man is God. And just as I was thinking about it in my mind, he was in a motorcade going down the Palisades Road, and he turned around to me on my side and waved his hand. And just as he waved, I looked in the middle of his hand, and there was that black print of the nail in his hand middle. And I said, could it be true, to myself, because it was very strange. And he bowed his head as if acknowledging my thoughts to say yes, And from that day on, I was convinced, and I wrote Bob a letter the same night to say, this is the man, I've seen him, and I believe in him.
Yeah. Finally, can I ask you, what obviously people will be wanting to know, all the rumours that are going around about Bob's state of health at the moment. What is the truth about where Bob is and how well he is at the moment?
Well, he's in Shashamane in Ethiopia, resting as far as I know. I've spoken to him 2 days ago, and he's fine. Same Bob, and he's just recuperating from tension and stress, pressure.
Right, we'll close with the track I'm Still Waiting, which is written by Bob Marley and sung by Rita Marley, with all good wishes to Bob. What are your plans for your solo career? You've got an album out, but are you going to do gigs? Are you going to tour around Britain and Europe with a band, the Wailers or any other band?
Yeah, definitely, Phil. I'm hoping, planning to start around February or March of next year, to go on a tour in Europe with the Fabulous Five and a part of the Wailers, if they're available.
Who are the Fabulous Five? Sorry.
It's one of Jamaica's #1 band, very popular, in reggae, and they're very good. They have actually worked on the album with me, co-produced by Grub Cooper, who plays drum in the Fabulous Five, and
So you'll be coming to Britain, would you?
Yes, definitely. I'm looking forward to that. And I hope all my brothers and sisters out there will come to see me.
I'm sure they will.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Trenchtown being quite a tough area. yeah?
Yes, definitely. And if you're a young girl and with that sort of ambition, you're open to all sorts of things, you know, all sorts of approach by the producers and the musicians and all of that.
Yes. What did your family think of you getting into music? You had, I suppose, what would be considered a very respectable career ahead of you with nursing.
Yes.
Were they disappointed when you switched over to music?
Well, not really, because I still had that instinct of being a nurse and a singer at the same time, whichever pays off best. I was ready for it, you know. And my father, who actually is a musician, he has a band in Sweden, and I've always dreamed about being a singer. I did concerts for schools and churches. I was always on the church choir. Whatever I could do for charity, I would, and I was always imitating other singers. So I started very young. So then they weren't disappointed. It was just a bit scaring because of the things that could happen as a girl, young girl coming up. But having Bob around then, it was reassuring that nothing bad would happen, you know?
Yes, yes. Had your father already gone to Sweden by
Yes,
then?
yes.
Way back then?
Yes, he left from I was 8 years old. He left Jamaica and he hasn't been back yet.
Oh. You're still in touch with him?
Yes, definitely.
What does he play in Sweden? I didn't know they had reggae bands in Sweden.
Well, he doesn't actually play reggae. He plays calypso
Mm-hmm.
and modern blues and jazz. He plays the tenor sax and the conga drums. He plays almost everything. And he teaches in Sweden. He teaches in the school to play conga drums and the piano, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I believe another of the significant events in those early days was that...
We were convinced that he was the true Messiah, the returned God, you know. And it was so convincing to me that I was very stiff-necked, you know, as a young girl, to say, well, how could this man be God? You know, he's just a man like anyone else. And friends would say, well, read your Bible and read books about Marcus Garvey and learn about Africa. And I was very interested because I figured there was more worth to me than just being an ordinary woman. I felt as if I had a special purpose in life. And then His Majesty came in 1966, and I...
One thing that's said by outsiders, and I speak in ignorance of this, is that in Rastafarianism, the woman tends to have an inferior role. Is there any truth in that?
Well, it all depends on the life of the woman, you know, what she sees herself as and her purpose in life. But in the Rastafarian philosophy, in the Bible, actually, we read about the man being the head of the woman, because the man was the first human who was made into life by God. So you give him that amount of respect as being the head of the woman. And in that sense, he has certain privileges above the woman, which, you know, but it's not just being lesser than the woman or the woman being lesser than the man or what. It doesn't work that way, really, with me. I see myself equal as the man, you know, and whatever part I have to play in life, I'm going to do it to the best of my ability without thinking about inferior or superior, you know.
Yes. One of the songs on the album seemed to relate to that in a way, The Beauty of God's Plan.
Yes.
Seemed to be about how the man relates to the woman. Is
Yes,
that right?
definitely, because it takes a woman and a man to show the beauty of God's plan. It can't be done by the man alone. No man is an island. No man stands alone. So it takes both of us, the man and the woman. The man represents the woman in a sense that the woman was taken from the ribs of a man, right? And she was given life by God, not by man. So it's only God that we should give all praises to, you know, and man and woman should work together as a pair, a partner, you know.
Thinking of that on the personal level, and thinking again of what about the the future, how do you and he see that in terms of your solo work? Would this just be occasional, or would you actually break away from the I3s and just pursue your own music exclusively?
No, well, I wouldn't break away from the I3s nor from Bob Marley and the Wailers. It's just that whatever we're doing, it has to be together. So I'll have some time to do my individual thing, and whatever I have to do with the Wailers is done, you know.
Yes.
So we work together.
Yes. It's quite obvious that you've led more than a full life ever since you came together with Bob Marley and the Wailers. It seems to have led you up a lot of paths. There's been the Rita Marley on the road singing, and then there's been your 5 children. And I believe you manage the studio as well, Tough Gong Studios.
Yes.
What does that task consist of?
It works in natural, I feel. It you know, it doesn't bother me, or it doesn't present a hazard to say, well, it's too much to do, because I space things out. The first thing I do each morning is get up and I jog 6 miles, and then jump in the river, and that starts my day, and I find I go through quite quite well.
Not in the Thames, I hope.
No,
Just in Kingston.
Jamaica, yes,
All right.
yeah. And it works, and then we have other people who works along with us in Jamaica, which makes it quite easy. So I find it just a part of my life, which I enjoy. It just happens naturally, and then one should be released soon here on the Saya record label.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I gather you do is run the farm you live on.
Yes.
Is this a big place or what?
Yeah, it's about 28 acres of land in Clarendon, and I dedicate 3 days a week to it to see cattle is right and vegetables are well and fit, and I don't use fertilizers on them, and it's great. We have the Milk River running right through the property, which it's so much fun, It doesn't seem like work to me, because everything comes naturally, And I appreciate everything that is around me, and we coordinate. That without them, I wouldn't exist, really. Without all those things.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is that when I'm talking about running the farm? Is that the sort of paperwork side of it you do, or do you
No.
get out there digging and milking and all that?
No, there's no paperwork to it. It's the practical work, the physical work, getting down there and planting your corn, planting your own peas, and seeing that worm is not eating the leaves of the coffee, and having coconut pick and making oil from the coconut, and picking the cherries and making juice, and help to milk the cow, shave the sheep and all of that. It's great, and it gives me more life, it gives me more energy each day, really. When I'm on tour, I'm more drained and exhausted than when I'm working my normal everyday work.
Yes, well, I suppose it's a much less healthy life, isn't it? That's
Yes,
for sure.
right.
In the coaches and hotels and so on.
Yes, sometimes it gets on top of you, You can't even breathe properly because there's no oxygen. Everything is just humid. So that gets on top of me even more than running out there in the farm in the open air and just feeling brand new every day,
Mhm.
Every day you feel younger.
The crops you're growing, you're mentioning using no fertilizers and so on,
Yeah.
relate to Rastafarian diet, or is that just your own personal choice?
Well, it's a choice of health, because all these things are organic. Things that are not planted or grown with fertilizers are organic, and they instantly, as you eat them, they do something to you, to the organs in your body and the system, So it's a way of life that everyone should adopt, whether Rasta or not.
Yeah, more difficult to adopt in England, I think. It sounds nicer in Jamaica.
Yes, it is.
Don't have to wade through so much mud and stuff on the farm, I don't suppose.
Sometimes if it rains plenty, you just put your boots on and you enjoy it, because after you're through, you have the river there to your convenience to just lay away in, and it's, ooh. When you come out, you're like brand new, I wish you'd come down and check it out.
I think I'm getting on a
sometime.
plane after this interview, the way you're describing it. Sounds wonderful.
It's great.
If I can switch the topic rather violently to something perhaps a little less happy, I wanted to just ask you a couple of questions on the more political front.
You know?
Don't you think there is some danger, though, of Rastafarianism or any other religion pacifying people so that they look towards God and don't fight back against evils that are done on the earth?
Well, there's nothing we can do. It's better to soothe the mind than to say, well, fight, 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 you know, because if it exists, it's going to exist, and it will be there for a good time, you know, because it is from the beginning. It's not going to just totally be eradicated out of the system. It's going to be there, you know, and these are the people who shows the more love for God, the people who don't have everything that they need every day. They say, well, oh my God, that's the only time people call upon God, when they're in need, you know. So it's a blessing sometimes to be poor, because then you don't get vain, you know. You don't just go out on yourself and all your material acquirements, what you have, you know. You have a time to say, well, thank God for today. Thank God for this cup of tea, because it's a possibility that you couldn't have any. Thank God for this dinner. Thank God for this whatever, you know. So I think poverty is still holding its place on earth for people to remember God, to have someone to call upon, to have someone to render to their needs, because the majority of people, that's the only time they think about God, when they're in need. So, you know, the most thing we can do is to try to ease it a little, but I don't think it will be ever totally be eradicated out, you know.
Yes, yes. Well, I have to agree to disagree on that one with you. But
Which I myself have, is just that I'm able to be up, you know, which we all have because of work, you know. It's nothing new. Or he's not the first person to take time out, because he has been working 7 years straight, Phil. I mean, he has been going. When he's not on the road, he's in the studio. When he's not in the studio, he's there tending to needs of people, listening and taking problems, and, you know, he never stops. And it's only natural for him to take a break, you know.
I think he means so much to people, way beyond the music, doesn't he? It's
Oh, yes.
more than being a star,
Yes.
isn't it?
He's a godfather and all, you know, he's a father to many, you know. And that's not all. Being a star is not all, you know, because after a while, the star either falls out or fades out, you know, and he's seeking for life everlasting, which is more important than just being a star, you know. Because the same people that says, yay, yay, if you're not there tomorrow, they say, nay, nay. So you have to first try to save yourself as a person, because you represent yourself, you know. There's nothing they can do but buy records. And when they do, it's good for you, but when they stop, it's bad for you. So if you don't try to save yourself, it don't mean anything to not even the fans that cheers you out there. When you're not there, that's it.
Are you going over to see him
Yes.
when you've finished all these interviews?
Definitely, Phil. I can't wait.
Have you ever been to Ethiopia before?
No, it was my first time.
So that will be quite a big thing for you.
Yes, because I've always dreamed, you know, of the motherland, of repatriating some way or other, because we believe in the dynasty and the destiny for every black man is in Africa, because that's the roots of every black man. And it's a sure thing that in the last days every vine shall find its fig tree. You know, every branch and stem has to be under its roots. You know, so it's a great thing.
Good.
Thank you, Phil. God bless you.
Thank you. It was very, very good. Very nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Where we were talking about your ideas of a career, your career to come. Right, fit in there, won't it? So
Yeah.
put a bit of tape in there. Right.